I just need to invite Jana. I think we're going to go into the new room. So now that I think we have to all go into for those who want to listen to English, we have to click on the interpretation in English because Nana will be speaking in Portuguese. So over to you, Nana. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. And thank you, Nien. Yeah.
Desligada. Primeiro eu quero agradecer as mais novas e as mais velhas da rede, né? E também quero saudar Exu para que o que eu possa falar possa abrir mentes, consciências e tal. Quando fui chamada para essa conversa, uma das questões era de como o trabalho estava sendo desenvolvido da minha comunidade, com a minha comunidade teatral, né, da qual participo nos tempos da pandemia. Bom, eu vou dividir com vocês uma experiência de um festival de teatro para mulheres pretas, chamado Pretação, né? E o que é essa mostra Pretação? A mostra Pretação é uma mostra de mulheres pretas, é uma mostra de teatro, dança-teatro e performances variadas, onde se visibiliza positivamente a mulher negra. De forma inédita, a ação busca suscitar a reflexão do que é ser artista, afirmando que a negritude nunca foi empecilho e investindo na pluralidade de vivências e características de cada uma dessas mulheres. O projeto acontece no mês de julho e a programação é composta por atrações de artistas locais, né? Em comemoração ao dia 25 de julho, que é o Dia Internacional da Mulher Negra, Latino-Americana e Caribenha, e também é o Dia Nacional de Teresa de Benguela, que é uma líder quilombola do século XVIII, que resistiu junto às comunidades negras e indígenas à escravidão, né? A mostra Pretação, ela aconteceu de forma presencial em 2019, depois da minha vinda do Trânsito, e ela também aconteceu em 2020, dentro desse sistema pandêmico, né, dessa realidade pandêmica que a gente vive, né? A segunda mostra de mulheres, ela realizou a sua segunda edição em julho de 2020, de forma virtual e compacta. Foi pequena, né? Então ela foi transmitida pelo Instagram, né, do grupo O Poste, do qual eu faço parte, e também pelo Meet, né? Adaptando o seu formato sem perder a essência. Uma estratégia de resistência ao racismo estrutural, à falta de políticas públicas mais consistentes no combate à desigualdade e à inoperância dos órgãos competentes diante da situação de pandemia. Ou seja, nós, comunidade preta, aqui, nós utilizamos um termo chamado nós por nós. Como já foi dito aqui, a desigualdade social existe e a pandemia ela só veio tirar o véu, né? Então, nós por nós é muito frequente, não foi diferente nesse período de pandemia. E nós estávamos atentos a isso. É assim que nos definimos por aqui. É assim que as mulheres negras pobres se definem por aqui. Então, se não há condições de realizar uma mostra de mulheres presencialmente, façamos com o que temos para continuarmos vivas. Pois num país que a cada 23 minutos um jovem negro é morto e onde morre 71% das mulheres negras, 75% mais de mulheres negras do que não negras, estarmos juntas, de qualquer maneira, é um ato de resistência. Resistir para compartilhar saberes, resistir para construir redes, resistir para deixar sementes, resistir para abrir mentes e janelas da consciência, resistir para encorajar minha filha Luana, resistir para manter meu quilombo urbano, O Poste Soluções Luminosas, em Recife, é a sede do nosso grupo. Resistir para fortalecer o meu grupo, o Poste Soluções Luminosas, e para intercambiar com outras existências. Sim, somos muitas e isso é fortalecedor. E foi com esse exercício de resiliência que nós começamos o Pretação 2, né? Então, para as mulheres pretas, claro, a situação pandêmica é terrível, a violência aumentou mais, a carência aumentou muito mais, mas temos a noção do caminho a seguir, temos a noção de que precisamos também estar nas mídias sociais. Então, isso nos impulsionou a fazer o festival mesmo online. Ele durou 3 dias, ele foi de 3 a 25, e ele conta também com o apoio de uma rede de mulheres afrocentradas de Pernambuco, né? Essa rede ela começou com 6 jovens inconformadas com tudo relacionado às questões da violência, principalmente elas tinham sofrido um assédio moral, então elas resolveram se juntar para trabalhar a saúde mental e poder trabalhar enquanto artistas juntas, porque somos mais fortes juntas, certo? E essa rede que começou com 6 mulheres, hoje ela tem 23, e eu faço parte dela. Então, esse festival é feito com o apoio dessa rede. Nesse ano, a rede ficou responsável as atrizes participaram também das performances e também ficaram responsáveis pela divulgação do festival, a parte de mídia do festival. O festival ele segue um caminho, ele segue um roteiro, ele segue uma forma. Nós homenageamos uma mulher negra que, para a gente, tem um papel de representatividade muito forte, né? E nesse ano, né, nós homenageamos a Roberta Silva. Ela representa para a gente uma existência resistente na construção de novas narrativas do projeto nas narrativas do teatro pernambucano. Por que a Roberta foi homenageada? Eu vou compartilhar aqui com vocês e vou visibilizar a Roberta para que vocês tenham ideia. Esse é o nosso logo, né, da Mostra Pretação. Foi online. Deixa eu achar aqui a Roberta para vocês poderem ver. Essa moça foi a nossa homenageada, Roberta. Roberta é o que chamamos aqui no Brasil de negra retinta. Então, a presença de Roberta sendo homenageada nesse festival, ela traz outra narrativa, inclusive de decolonização, né? Ela está sendo colocada, inclusive, como uma pessoa extremamente experiente em teatro e também uma historiadora. Ela não está num papel subalternizado, que seria muito comum olhar para ela e identificar isso como um imaginário racista. Então, estrategicamente, a Roberta, por ter uma relação também com o teatro de muitos anos e que isso é muito importante para as jovens que chegam enquanto representatividade e visibilidade, ela representou no nosso festival uma nova narrativa, né? O que qualquer pessoa poderia dizer é uma pessoa que poderia fazer serviços subalternizados, que também existe uma questão muito forte em relação aos serviços subalternizados, porque tem uma relação com esse processo da escravidão, de não acesso à educação e toda essa questão histórica dentro da diáspora negra aqui no nosso país. A Roberta ela representa uma outra coisa para a gente. Então, nós visibilizamos a Roberta. Muito importante a Roberta ter sido homenageada nesse festival. Outras ações que nós planejamos, nós fizemos um fórum intitulado Novas Narrativas Negras, que tem como objetivo o compartilhamento de reflexões acerca da criação de uma realidade sem estereótipos, certo? Desconstruindo o imaginário de uma visão colonial e racista, para que novas narrativas sejam partilhadas, ou seja, nós podemos contar a nossa própria história, né? E esse fórum aconteceu, eu vou visibilizar aqui a foto do fórum, né? Temos essa foto, as mulheres estão por aqui, e também temos essa aqui. Então, é muito importante que a discussão também aconteça no festival, né? Para que várias vertentes, são mulheres artistas de várias áreas, possam discutir sobre as questões pertinentes, né? É importante lembrar que esse fórum, ele nasceu, ele é uma semente da oficina de escrita que eu fiz com a Amaranta e a Yalin. E eu preciso dizer que elas foram grandes parceiras quando eu voltei ao Brasil, porque a oficina de escrita também foi realizada aqui com as mulheres pretas. Então, nós ficamos em comunicação e o que vivemos no trânsito trouxemos para cá, né? As performances também foram apresentadas, né? Elas também versaram sobre novas narrativas, que era o tema do festival desse ano, relacionados aos nossos corpos e às nossas corpas, né? Então, nós performamos 15 minicontos eróticos do livro Preto Prazeres, da escritora e ativista Odailta Alves. Então, 12 atrizes partilharam a sexualidade livre e saudável apresentada na obra, sem a objetificação histórica a qual o corpo negro é exposto. Essa live, ela foi uma live muito bonita e muito emocionante, ela teve a duração de 3 horas, ela foi pelo Instagram. Deixa eu mostrar aqui para vocês algumas fotos, né, dessa live. Aqui a gente tem a Agrinês Melo, que também faz parte do Grupo Poste. Nós somos 2 mulheres que fazemos parte do Grupo Poste, e temos o Samuel, que é o nosso companheiro. Nós somos em 3. Essa é a Bruna Martins, que faz parte da Rede de Mulheres Afrocentradas, uma das moças que criou a rede, né? Aqui sou eu, conversando com Janaína, após a apresentação da cena dela. As mulheres tinham 10 minutos para apresentar a cena e depois 10 minutos de conversa com o público sobre a sua cena. Os ensaios foram feitos, eu e a Grinês nos dividimos e dividimos o grupo de mulheres e fomos orientando, né? Eu e a Grinês fomos orientando o caminho dessas mulheres. Aqui está a Roberta, nossa homenageada também, conversando com a Agrinês. Aqui é o nosso cartaz da live. Então, todas essas mulheres de gerações diferentes, né? Elas se apresentaram, e é importante dizer que esse é um festival que nunca aconteceu em Pernambuco. É o primeiro festival que reúne mulheres pretas. Essa é a Odailta Alves, a escritora e dramaturga e também atriz do livro Pretos Prazeres. E essas são as fotos da primeira edição. Aqui, uma foto da oficina de escrita. Esse material ele está na revista de Magdalena, né? E aqui é uma das fotos da oficina de escrita de mulheres, para que elas possam falar sem serem interrompidas ou não terem a sua narrativa contada por uma outra pessoa, né? Tivemos outras ações realizadas pelo Grupo Poste Soluções Luminosas durante a pandemia. A pretação foi apenas uma delas, né? Nós fizemos uma ação de uma campanha, na verdade, para continuar com o nosso espaço, com a nossa sede, né? Então, nós fizemos uma campanha, recebemos o apoio de muitos parceiros, do público, de muitos artistas, e nós conseguimos saldar a dívida do nosso espaço, o tempo que ele ficou fechado, negociar a transição para um outro espaço. Continuamos no centro do Recife, que é estrategicamente importante para nós, porque toda a comunidade negra, na sua maioria, ela vive e mora em periferias. Então, após o processo da abolição da escravatura, por volta de 1838, aqui no centro do Recife, as mulheres negras, os homens negros livres já nesse período, tinham toda uma relação com o centro, mas aos poucos eles foram retirados por leis, por decretos, e foram para comunidades, para periferias. Então, ter a sede do Grupo Poste, Soluções Luminosas, no centro do Recife é estratégico, porque nós podemos fazer exatamente essa ponte das pessoas que estão na periferia para o centro. voltar, transitar, intercambiar. E nós conseguimos, mudamos de sede, continuamos no centro, estamos num lugar maior, num lugar que, inclusive, pode acolher pessoas para fazer um festival onde todas as mulheres estejam juntas, dormindo, inclusive, acordando, se alimentando juntas, né? Além disso, nós fizemos um projeto chamado Terças Pretas. Esse projeto Terças Pretas, ele foi organizado por Samuel Santos, né? E nós entramos como coordenação também. Ele consistia em lives com artistas, e o artista tinha a oportunidade de fazer apresentar a sua dramaturgia, eram todos dirigidos por Samuel, tinha um tempo de ensaio e uma apresentação. Saíram aproximadamente 10 produtos, e esses 10 produtos eles escoaram, porque isso foi logo no começo da pandemia, porque logo depois, com os auxílios emergenciais, essa produção construída nesse projeto, ela serviu para que os artistas pudessem colocar esse projeto num edital e conseguir valores, vender o que tinha sido construído junto com o grupo O Poste, né? E isso foi feito pelo Instagram. Nós temos também um festival, que é o Festival Luz Negra, o Negro em Estado de Representação, onde nós já é um festival que tem uma relação com todo o território nacional, certo? Onde nós convidamos e visibilizamos grupos de teatro e suas produções. Então, nós temos artistas na área de música, de dramaturgia, de dança, de teatro, de artes plásticas. É uma grande reunião de artistas. E nós conseguimos aprovar projetos. Então, esses artistas receberam cachê, né? E nós conseguimos, durante um período, fazer a apresentação de espetáculos pelo YouTube, pelo StreamYard, né? Que é como chamamos o StreamYard, é um estúdio virtual, e após as apresentações, nós tínhamos a conversa com o público, sempre interagindo com o público, e também tivemos palestras, espetáculos infantis também estavam na grade, né? Tivemos também a exibição dos nossos espetáculos online, né? Todos os nossos espetáculos foram apresentados online, e também conseguimos construir o embrião do nosso novo espetáculo a partir do apoio do Itaú Cultural, né? Então, nós também começamos a ter um trabalho desenvolvido nesse período de pandemia. Bom, em relação ao futuro, foi uma pergunta bem interessante que foi feita, né? Como é que nós estamos encaminhando com a crise, né? A crise, de uma forma ou de outra, ela sempre esteve por aí, não é isso? E velada, né? E, então, nós continuamos, nós abraçamos, como eu já falei, as propostas que nos foram dadas, e em julho está aí. Então, teremos uma interpretação novamente, ou de uma forma ainda pela internet, ou podemos fazer de uma forma híbrida. Vai depender muito da abertura do governo do estado de Pernambuco em relação, né, as pessoas já estão sendo vacinadas aos poucos, então vai depender muito de uma espécie de uma flexibilização e de um conselho que eu vou fazer com as mulheres, que geralmente participam e apoiam o festival, se nós vamos conseguir pelo menos um núcleo muito pequeno, né, para que possamos ir para o espaço. Se não acontecer, faremos online, né? E mais para o futuro ainda, eu preciso dizer que eu consegui colocar esse ano, nós conseguimos, o Grupo Poste conseguiu botar o projeto no edital, o edital que tem o Fundo Pernambucano de Cultura, nós temos, e gostaríamos muito que passasse para que a Rede Madalena estivesse conosco no próximo. Então, o projeto já seguiu, estamos no processo que é uma licitação, né? Estamos aguardando para essa caminhada. Vai ser híbrido, mas nós queremos esse contato com a Rede Madalena, as mulheres do Madalena, conosco no nosso festival. É isso! Jana, muito obrigada, minha querida.
Wow. Thank you, thank you. Sorry. Okay. Wow. Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, wow. Well, let's invite the panelists back on. So if you can put, if everyone can go on to gallery screen, and we just wait for Christina to come back on. And we request for everyone, if you like, to have your video turned on so that it is not so alienating, and we can actually connect and share spaces and share ideas together. Thank you. I'm not sure how this is going to be done because Yana is in the, because Nana is in the main room. So questions from the main room, I think I might need some help here in terms of how this Q&A is going to be done. But the English session, I mean, I think we can go there, and then perhaps when we are asking Nana question, Jana, maybe you might have to, you know, come into the main room and then repeat again. So bear with us. You stay there. Oh, okay. All right, it's gonna be quite interesting, but let's try this. So I'm going to open the floor for a Q&A itself. And Ilanda is here right now. Christina, yeah. Okay, so yes, I think thank you very much. Sorry, I have to keep switching channels. Okay, all right. So we have to, if we have, so this is a bit of we have to juggle. So bear with us. If everyone looks down in the Zoom, especially for us, if you want to understand what, if there's a question for Nana and Nana's answering in the main room, and we want to hear the English translation, there is we have to switch room. All right, for us, the main room, we have to switch room. Okay, so it's a new experiment, so bear this with us. You know, we're all in this together. So thank you. All right, so there's a lot, especially with the last panels. There's a lot going on. There's a lot being shared and a lot being said over the last 2 days, and one of it is, you know, the questions that we have. And yesterday, panel was talking about, you know, being listening. You know, Louis Weaver created for us a porch sitting, where we sat down and we listened and we allowed things to happen in that midst. Christina, you know, touched to us about, you know, focus on about, you know, how do we present theater and keeping the audience alive. You know, and Nien was telling us about, you know, how do we inhabit the current space that we are in, you know, moving towards, you know, create and as artists, I think we need to make sense of who we are and what we are. With Nana, we'll talk about the whole process of, you know, we still need to tell our own stories, you know. So I open up the floor to questions that you want to, will not take any more time here because I think it'd be more interesting to hear the speakers speak. So yes, the floor is open to all of you. Thank you. You can also type your questions in the chat in the chat itself.
I can ask a question, can I? Can you hear me well? I'd like to ask Christina if she thinks that cyberformance will be a way for many of the theatrical or even dance companies that exist, and that now they experimented with it. And do you think that if this is over, they will go on using cyberformance, using digital media, or it will be like a fade for them, and then they're not going back to the digital when they can be, you know, physically present in a theater?
Oh, of course, I cannot know that. I can only hope that because they had now on these new schemes, that they might use it. I'm thinking like in terms of, for example, the university is learning through this experience, and they're discussing what we can do when we actually go back in the building, keeping some of working from home, keeping some online elements, but of course moving on so back to the face-to-face and seeing how we can do that safely. The other thing that we don't know is when this will finish. We have now a new variant that it's spreading across the UK, and soon they are expecting it to spread across the rest of Europe, and we don't know how long this will take. So but what I'm arguing really, or what I hope really, is that because many companies will experience now this virtual world, they might keep some elements. They might keep, and they might move some of those elements on stage and make hybrid performances. And most importantly, try to think of the new audiences they've created and how they can sustain those audiences and keep them while they return back into the building.
And Jill had her hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is, I want to thank all three of you very much. It was a very sorry about the dog, diverse panel, and Nana, really, it's so wonderful what you're doing now. It's just marvelous. I am so happy for what
Obrigada.
you achieved.
Que bom, eu também.
My question is, and to Christina, I'm not quite sure how to form it, but I think I'm asking what in essence has I think it's probably more for Christina and for the people who've been doing online performance for many years, but Nien, you can come in as well if you want. What in essence has the online experience, or your experience of making online performance have to offer to the rest of us in terms of the art of making theatre in whatever form will emerge post pandemic? What have you got to teach us, is what I'm saying, I think.
I'm not sure if it can teach you something, Gillian, to your work, knowing the the daughter's performance, because it's already interactive and inclusive. But I think in general, in what we call mainstream theater, that it really separates audiences from performers, and they stay silent in a dark auditorium and just watch. It might offer a lot in terms of inclusion, in terms of allowing them space to interact. And I know Zoo the Massacre is not so interactive, but like the Siberian Track Circle was all about co-writing with the audience. The play couldn't exist if the audience didn't type and respond. And I think the main issue I had during the pandemic with the work I've seen is that it's mainly through Zoom. And there are so many platforms out there. And I hope more people will start exploring different platforms and start acknowledging audiences are there and making them more interactive. This is really a hope I have. And then, of course, I think it will make more digitally aware in those terms. But just to say something, is not really answering your question, but because I spoke about the different projects I worked during the pandemic, I was also really lucky to work with Jill on her daughter's performance that you will see on Sunday. And that was a very difficult task for me, because this was a project that already existed before the pandemic. It has a very specific structure that is really based on face-to-face interaction. And it has been very challenging to find the right space for it that can accommodate this interaction. So I understand for Jill, the internet is taking a lot from her, and it's not the right space. It's been difficult to find the right space online for such a performance, because Jill has been working already with interaction and making the audience part of the performance, being somehow co-performers when they go and listen to a story. So definitely it might be very restrictive, but I feel it also might open, like I said, to new audiences that might not have had the chance to see the performance before.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nien, would you like to offer something, please?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Jill, for the question. I completely agree with Christina. I was also, one of the things that I couldn't really fit into my presentation was the limits of Zoom, and how we should be open to more ethical platforms. I mean, we are on Zoom right now. We are on Zoom for a reason, because it is accessible to a lot of people, and it has a lot of functions. But you know, I'm really inspired by Upstage and what they have been doing. I'm inspired by, you know, as I said in my talk, that digital theatre is not new, and it has always been in development, and I'm learning new things every day from these pioneers of digital theatre. As for what, I don't think there's a sort of an us and them in terms of what the way the question is put, in terms of what can we teach you. I think we're all in this together. It's not we can't there's no one way to define digital theatre, just like there is no one way to define theatre at large. But just in general is the idea that, you know, sometimes there is this valorization of a certain type of liveness or a certain kind of attention that is sort of considered only present when we are in the space breathing the same air as you know, with the audience and the performer or co-performers. But there is a sense of intimacy. I think the word I want to use is intimacy with digital performance. That is kind of something that we need to tap into. We need to acknowledge more, because intimate worlds, being intimate is something that is so real to so many people in the online space. It's not something that can only happen skin to skin. And that's why I talked about, you know, the audience member who turned on his camera with his daughter, and they were literally lying on the bed in pajamas. And it's also is the idea of accessibility, being able to, the digital space can be available to certain kinds of people who are not able to be in the same space as you, either because of their bodies, people with disabilities, or for the digital space can also afford the people with visible impairment and so on, or people who can't afford to go to live theater. So it's a guy, I guess, a kind of, we just need to embrace, we don't need to embrace it uncritically. We still have to be very critical and be very aware of the ethics of our work, but we should be more open, I guess, in general, not to this group, obviously, who have organized a whole digital conference, but I guess just in general to the mainstream. More people should be open to the new ways of intimacies and spectatorship that digital theater can afford. Thank you.
If I can quickly jump, sorry, and just to say, because we were talking about platforms, I cannot not mention Susan's platform that was Water Will Tap. And because it was a platform that it was very similar to Zoom in terms of having cameras and sounds, but it was a creative platform where you could do several things that you cannot do on Zoom. And I feel it's really pity that we don't have this platform now alive to use it, because it really allowed you to play, move the boxes around, place the one box on the other, and create a sense that we are in the same space and blur each other, turn the box around, draw. It had so many tools. And it was really, when I was using Zoom, I was always, oh, why it's not Water Will Tap? And we could do so many interesting things in it. And it's really a matter of sustainability and sustaining such platforms. And it's so difficult. And it's great that Helen and Vicky have managed to sustain Upstage. And we've been using it for so many years, with some issues like bugs, for example, that we would come across, and sometimes things would not work. But it's been there, and it's been very useful because it allowed us to be creative. Most platforms are not for creative purposes, and that's very obvious, because we cannot do what we want to do as artists there. We are really restricted by the platforms themselves.
May I say something?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so Naná, parabéns, felicidades. What language? English.
Hang on, which language, so we know which room to go?
English.
Sorry.
Okay, so congratulations of what you're doing. It's great that you're making places for the Black women to write their stories. I'm very happy to listen to that. And I wanted to ask you, what have you learned from this? What was the most beautiful thing? Parabéns pelo que você está fazendo. Fico muito feliz de saber que você está criando espaços para as mulheres pretas escrevam suas histórias. Eu gostaria de saber o que você aprendeu, o mais lindo.
O que foi de mais lindo,
Sim.
certo?
Okay, wait, hang on. So we all go to the...
A oficina de escrita. Tá.
Oh, I'm sorry, I translated myself. I say the same.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. So Nana will go, and if you want to listen to Nana in English, we have to go to the Portuguese where Yana is. All right. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Pronto. A oficina de... Ok, não, sem problemas. A oficina de... Tá. Deixa eu desligar, senão eu vou ficar louca. Sim, a oficina de escrita, ela possibilitou o exercício da ancestralidade, de você poder olhar a sua mãe, a sua avó e a sua filha. Isso foi o que surgiu de mais bonito, né? Porque fiz a oficina de escrita trabalhando o corpo, trabalhando também materiais e trabalhando a construção. Tudo que nós fizemos, eu trabalhei com elas também. Então, a construção, fomos por um espaço aberto, fomos para perto de um rio, né? Jogamos dentro do espaço poste e escrevemos muito, 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 muito. Então, o que foi de mais bonito é poder se reconhecer enquanto mulher negra, porque como vocês viram na foto, existem várias concentrações de melanina no nosso país, e isso muitas vezes, porque como o nosso país é racista, então, não, aqui não existe racismo, isso é coisa da sua cabeça, somos todos iguais. Então, aquela mulher negra de tez mais clara se acha não negra em muitos momentos, às vezes até desde que nasce. Então, uma coisa é você ser uma mulher preta e outra coisa é quando você se assume uma mulher preta. Então, isso é um processo que diferencia de uma mulher para outra. Então, quando nós nos juntamos e escrevemos e falamos sobre a nossa família, muitas histórias pesadas surgiram de um processo mesmo de invisibilização de fenótipos, de histórias anteriores. Então, elas, de uma forma muito generosa, elas abriram isso para todo o grupo de mulheres e elas puderam se ver enquanto mulheres racializadas dentro de um país que diz que o racismo não existe, certo? E outra coisa, saiu um livro disso. Ele foi muito bom. Uma mulher escreveu um livro. A oficina ela deu possibilidade para que todas as mulheres, de uma forma ou de outra, escoasse a sua produção, sendo na construção do seu trabalho, sendo no posicionamento junto à sua família, o seu posicionamento político.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think for me, over the last 3 days, the panel, we opened up many questions rather than answering the questions, but I'm quite grateful for that. And for me, it's about I'm just sharing. I was reading Donna Haraway's book, Staying with Trouble, and I think as artists, as people, we stay with the trouble. To me, the trouble is the current state that we are in. And rather than ignoring the trouble, we stay with it. And the last 2 days, the different performances, Angry Women, Chili Adams' performance, meeting the founders of the Magdalena, listening to the story of how Jill stormed out of the room very angry, and then how the Magdalena started. And also the question of, anger or shift to aggression, which I quite like, because to me, anger is quite violent. It's quite traumatic for me. Whether we can really be future-proof And that's another issue altogether. And even though this is an first online performance, I think we are bringing up questions of a shared space. You know, what is this shared space and this shared intimacy that the Magdalena has held and done for over 35 years? And what is this new space, new online Magdalena space? I'm going to open up this and ask the people, everyone here, what might be this new Magdalena online space, can be or is, in response to what the panel has talked about in their work over the last 2 days that we have been in here.
I was going to say something before about the differences, and you know, in response to Jill asking what cyberformance can teach theatre practitioners, and as Christina and also I think Nien said, that everybody is different, so everybody needs something different, and this has always been for me really important in Magdalena, that within this network there is room for huge variety of the kind of work that people do. And I've often had people ask me, you know, what kind of theatre is the Magdalena Project about? And I sort of say, well, sort of maybe alternative or experimental or physical or not mainstream. But in fact, when you look at the network, there's just about every kind of live performance form has been there in some way or another. And I think this festival now is also reflective of this variety. And what I enjoy also at the moment, sorry about the banging in the background, is how the situation of the pandemic has meant for us working for a long time in cyberformance, that we suddenly have many more different people and variety of voices coming into our form as well. So can you not hammer now? I'm talking. Sorry about this. Just at the moment when I put my microphone on, they start hammering. Yeah, so I think that this you know, everybody has different artistic ideas and different needs, and this is a really exciting moment for us in cyberformance, as well as for the people that are coming new to it, to have this great opening of possibilities, and also for audiences. You know, I think that audiences, a great many audiences are now new to this form, and that we have a role to help them to understand, to learn, to try, and to experiment with us. So I see this for the Magdalena Network as well, about making space for this difference. It is a network where there has always been this variety. Now they've stopped hammering.
If I can just add that there is also a big difference between the work that we chose to be online, because we wanted this work to happen for the online space. We didn't have to. It was, at the moment, is more of we have to, because there's no other way to do it. Of course, you can do it in your balcony. I think there's been great things happening, for example, in Italy, with different performers performing in their balcony, either music or theater, or even doing Zumba in the street, and all over the world, to entertain their neighbors. And I thought that was, for me, a great alternative to the online, that people can use their own balconies and windows and streets to entertain other people and keep them happy during that time. But we had to or many had to move online to reach their audiences and keep them there and remind them that they are here, and remind themselves that they are still creative and that they want to keep on doing work or sharing work they have already done. I think the big difference is that when, for example, and I'll talk about my own self, when I did my first Cyberformance, I wanted it to be online. I was not forced by anyone to. I really want to experiment with this space. And I wanted the performance to have a meaning for being online, not just to use the space. So what I did at the time was that I was inspired by the stream scene in Brecht's Kafkasian Chankcertain, where Grusha and Simon met each other, but they had the stream in between them. So they could see each other, they could talk to each other, but they couldn't touch each other. And I was feeling that this is the relationship I was building with my family and friends. I would communicate through Skype at the time, and we could see each other, we could talk to each other, but we couldn't feel each other. And this is how I started looking to do a performance in the internet and make it part of the dramaturgy. So I was looking to explain why the performer is online, why the audience are going online. So I placed the whole performance in Egypt during the Egyptian revolution, when people were turning on their Wi-Fi's, removing passwords so people could communicate with each other online, because there was the internet blackout and they couldn't connect on Twitter or on Facebook or on Skype. So I used Upstage as a platform that is not blocked in Egypt, and where Grusha enters and asks the audience to help her find Simon, who she lost because of the revolution. So I had really this need to make the online part of the dramaturgy, a part of why it's there on, so explaining. Now that needs is not there anymore, because we all know that another need has come in, which is that we still need to communicate, we still need to perform, and that's the only way to reach audiences that are not in our neighborhood.
We have Helen, Suzanne. Suzanne, you want to say something? Yeah. Suzanne, you're muted. Suzanne, you're muted.
I know. Here we go. Sorry. I was thinking at the same time. I think, first of all, with or without pandemic, I think it's important to have continuity and commitment in the work. So yes, if we decide to go online, it's something that needs to be experimented. I mean, I think we'll have to continuously experiment, but we'll have to continuously also have connection with audiences, or revisit the idea of audience and performers. So I believe there will be a lot of new formats coming up, but what I have seen, and that's why also we stopped Water Wheel, and I mean, I will be really happy to have a new upstage, but I believe that the speed of development of technology for the moment is actually overcoming, or it overcomes our capacity of grasping what's going on. I mean, we still can grasp a bit, but it's really going to a speed of development that we will not be able to follow. And I think what would be the most interesting, and I think that's also what people who started with the beginning of internet trying to perform have done, but it has to be continued and in a wider, bigger scale, is to infiltrate the big companies that have money to develop this kind of technology. Because it's only if we are in these kind of places that we can also determine the tools. Like I remember when I start to experiment and learn about the online spaces, I had the opportunity to go on Access Grid, which is a very high-end platform that is used between universities and also between for medical purposes and things like that. It has been used for at least 2 decades, if not more. And yeah, that was the very first thing I thought. It was like, oh, it's a huge tool. You can have like 3 projectors or 4 projectors at the same time. It's very immersive environment already 20 years ago, but all these blocks were really rigid and everything was kind of rigid. But I think also it's by being frustrated with this kind of rigidity that we can make new tools that are more flexible. Yeah, so I think one of the big things that artists will need to do is to continue infiltrating companies that develop, because alone we are not able to really develop. I mean, alone, even if it's how do you say, open source with some collective groups, in terms of really having specific space for performance, I think we need to really open up to all the communication tools, to everything we have access or infiltrate access. Voilà. That's all what I wanted to say for the future.
We have a question from I think Dimple raised her hand, and then I'll go to Fiona after Dimple. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not a question, but I just wanted to add that I'm a performance artist, but not a theater-based performances. So, but we have been experimenting online performance since 1 year, and we call it as a simultaneous performance act. So like 9 artists simultaneously perform together. And we have been having like completed almost 15 episodes. And it's quite an exercise-based performance. It's not open online, but we do it as an exercise. And then we have a next session of interaction responses, what we did in the performance, and then putting it in YouTube for viewing. So it's more like, you know, we do it, but then we also do the process of thinking and discussion. And then we also invite 3 artists every time we have the episode. So this is a new version of experiment, which we have been doing it. So that's, I just wanted to share my, like what kind of experiment as a performance artist we do. And there are like several platforms for performance also. And some are live and live performance act more, you get immediate response from the audience. And sometimes we have a recorded version. So these are kind of experiments which visual artists have been doing with performance.
Thank you. Fiona?
Hi, hello. I'm a little bit late to this discussion, but lovely to be here. So I'm a theatre maker, and I'm a lecturer at Goldsmiths at London University, and I'm a joint citizen of Britain and New Zealand. Hi, Helen. And so my practice working online began because I moved from New Zealand to Britain and continued working on projects in New Zealand as a dramaturg, as a performance developer. So was able to go to meetings, go to rehearsals. On Friday night, I was taken on a journey through an installation as the dramaturg to give feedback to the company. So I've been doing that for quite a long time, but I wouldn't describe that I work online. But this year at Goldsmiths, my work has been completely online. I've only met my students a couple of times, and we've tried all sorts of different things and gone in many different directions with a group of working with our MA performance makers and our MA composers and our MA writers and dramaturgs. We did a massive interdisciplinary project where we really looked to push the parameters of what's possible online, and they came up with some incredible projects, and it was amazing because the students a lot of them had not been able to come to London, so they were all over the world doing these collaborations, and were able to make these quite amazing pieces actually that went up. I've also been involved in much more traditional practice where people have tried to put plays up, and I think that's been maybe less successful because it's taking something and sort of putting it online rather than actually starting from working online. But I've just been involved in a series of readings where the students have worked with professional actors and directors online on Zoom to do the rehearsals, and then it was one of the first performances to go up at Soho Theatre this week, and that was a really interesting transition because all of the work was online, in terms of preparing the actors.
Slow down, Fiona. I think Janina's signaling to slow down. She's translating. They're translating. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I'll slow down. So just to say that we were we were rehearsing online with the actors and directors, and inevitably that there was the frame, which Jill has talked about, and the kind of but a kind of intimacy that came from working in that way, which we then took the work into the theatre. So we had one morning to put it into the theatre before the audience came in the afternoon, because we wanted to limited contact with the audience, or contact between us physically. But that was a massive transition to take it from Zoom into the space for the actors, because and obviously they hadn't worked in a theatre for a year, so they were hungry for it. But they needed a lot of direction about connecting up and out rather than into the screen, in terms of the things that Jill's been talking about. And I think that will be something that comes actually later on when actors who've worked on Zoom, how that then influences how they perform actually when they move back into the theatre. For me though, the big thing that I think I will hang on to with this is the access, because I've worked with a lot of disabled students. I've worked with a whole range of people across the world that would never have been able to come together. I've been able to bring Alison Campbell from Melbourne to teach my students, and I've been able to teach for her. We've done these swaps, and there's been this incredible, kind of exchange that's happened that would never have been possible without this. And that's what I want to hang on to. I'm also exhausted. I've spent the whole year staring at this screen, and I just want to close it down and not look again at a block of faces. So however lovely it is to see all of you, it's so intense and it's so exhausting working in this way. Yeah, I think I just wanted to share all of those different thoughts that sort of summarize the journey that I've been on online this year. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question, actually two more. Carenza, you have your hand up? No?
Yeah. I just say this is about rehearsals and stuff like that, because I recently did a kids performance. We had I have a kids group that before the pandemic, and then we stopped for a year. I'm slowing down, and started again. And like with this Zoom medium, we did a lot of work on this being the stage as opposed to a camera. And we did improvisations with lights and things like that, and a light ballet. And then we started, I do mask in real life, but I couldn't get the masks to them, so we use the lens masks and backdrops. And just in short, that process of changing and working together and getting your backdrops to change at the same time, changing your lenses and communicating how to do this and teaching these young people between the ages of 10 and 12 how to do this actually took as much time and as energy as a rehearsal in real life. And because it was the way we all been living our lives, I mean, there was, and their kids, of course, there was this very strong sense of community, and people who had never been there were able to attend. But yeah, Zoom performance, I think, takes as much to get comfortable with as real life theatre.
Thank you very much, Karenza. I have one question to ask all three speakers, and it has to do with what first Christina shared about, I think, the fact that she was doing a performance in Egypt, and about open access, and the platform was not available, so she had to do that. The second one was very close to my heart, but it's about censorship laws in Singapore. I think we have to understand that these laws, censorship laws, are very, very real in countries in Asia. And it was also something that the artist Olive Opto, the video log lady, was talking about, using this online platforms and online space so that she can speak about the government without having to go through very, very strict censorship laws. And also to Nana, because she was mentioning how, you know, they needed to tell the story, to use social media. So my question to the three of you, and I think we all understand, and I am, you know, sometimes I am envious of countries who do not have censorship laws and fees, you know, because censorship laws are something that some of us have to navigate through very delicately, very, very delicately. And I do not want to share. I don't know whether you have all read the news. I might knock on my door about what happened to the only independent newspaper here in Hong Kong, and blah, 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 blah. So nice to meet you. The door comes in, but I'm not joking. But yeah, so the floor to you, maybe to the three of you. Let's talk about this whole need, this censorship. I think we need to tell the world that these censorship laws are real, people. They are real, and it's scary. Let's go. Thank you.
Yeah, there is nobody here from Iran, nor from China, isn't it?
Let's go to the three panelists, please. Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was just.
I will be very quick, because I'm lucky not to have censorship neither in Greece nor in UK, where I'm based. But I looked at censorship during my research, and when I did the Siberian Chunk Circle, I was not based in Egypt. I used the censorship as part of the play to explain some of the things happening. But I've also learned a lot. I looked also in Turkey and the revolution there, and how Twitter was used by people to share news that were not shared on TV, and communicate with each other. And then the same platform, Twitter, was used by Erdogan, who is the president, or and say king, and used it to find those people and put them back into the prison. So for me, I think the important thing is that we need to be very careful when we use the internet. It's not a separate space from the real space. It's an extension of it, and and people, especially when are open platforms like Twitter, they can trace and find what we are posting there. So we need to be super careful in terms of that. I don't know really how difficult it can be in countries where they cannot access social media, specific social media. I can say only for Greece that because TV and media are quite controlled, I would say too controlled for a democratic country, many have found social media as a way to actually share news that are not on the news. And it has been quite powerful lately with people sharing news that then had to become news on TV because they were so big on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you. Nien?
Yeah, thank you, Christina. You are absolutely right. We all still need to be very careful about what we say, but I think Elizabeth will know it. In Singapore, we can't put up a theatre show without having to vet the script with the authorities, and just having the opportunity when we did Who's There to talk about race, something that is very sensitive in Singapore still, without having to just go through that very stressful, mentally stressful, emotionally exhausting censorship process, where sometimes they will ask you to amend the scripts or even cancel your show maybe a week before, 3 days before, a day before the event. To be able to do that, even at the risk of being so-called blacklisted because we are part of the show, I think it's still a little bit more liberating than it was if we had to go through the censorship process. That being said, we were still careful. Like there are laws now, fake news laws, that allow governments to prosecute people for so-called fake news without any reason or any justification that it is fake. So if you do any sort of criticism, you can be prosecuted for fake news online. So we were, I remember when I was making Who's There, when I woke up in a fright in the middle of the night, before opening night, thinking, oh my God, we talked about this minister, and they might not know it's satire. So they might prosecute us for this law. This law is for people like us. So we had to put in the chat that this was satire, and it became part of the performance, that this is not fake news. We are making a joke. So this, I mean, after the performance, many Singaporeans came up to us and asked us if we were scared, like, how could you do this? How could you talk about the government like this? But it's really because it's, it was online and it was based in New York. So we didn't have to do that. So there is obviously plus points, but there's also, like what you have said, Christina, that it's not separate from the real space. The law will catch up eventually, I think. So we will have to take what space we can. That's all.
Thank you. Nana, and anything to add? And then we can end the panel.
Sim, quero sim. Nós tivemos que entender que precisamos... Deixa eu só desligar, Jana. Ok, pronto. Nós precisamos entender que a ação... Nós somos um grupo que trabalha ações afirmativas, não separamos política de arte. Então, os membros do nosso grupo também tiveram que interferir em assentos políticos de discussão enquanto sociedade civil. Então, discutir com o governo do estado, discutir com a prefeitura, né, o fato de estarmos numa pandemia e termos um grupo muito vulnerabilizado a essa situação, e que esse grupo deveria ser visto, né? Então, tanto os artistas de espaços rurais, como as mulheres negras, como os homens negros, como as culturas de tradição, deveria ter um olhar. Então, o que aconteceu? Os editais, a partir de então, eles trabalham com cotas, eles trabalham com ações afirmativas para mulheres, para negros, para indígenas, para trans, né? Então, isso é uma luta nossa. E nós continuamos com esse movimento, né? Existem vários grupos políticos, artísticos em Pernambuco, e muitas vezes esses grupos não têm relação com nenhum assento de nenhuma classe, de nenhum sindicato. Então, somos nós que nos juntamos. É aquele nós por nós que eu disse lá no começo, ele é abrangente. Então, nós nos juntamos para que a mudança acontecesse. Então, nesse período pandêmico, foi fundamental que deixássemos de lado as diferenças, né? Todas, para que pudéssemos nos juntar para que conseguíssemos que o Estado Democrático de Direito realmente acontecesse dentro das culturas artísticas aqui. Em relação ao governo federal, nós tivemos a liberação do Fundo Nacional de Cultura, enfim, né? Vocês sabem o que está acontecendo aqui, né? Então foi uma luta grande, existe um desmonte absurdo acontecendo, nós já não temos ministério, a nossa cultura está sendo liderada por um secretário que usa uma arma na cintura para coagir, isso é real, viu, gente? Nosso secretário especial de cultura, ele usa uma arma na cintura para coagir os funcionários, né? E estamos nessa luta de olho, né, para que os financiamentos eles possam realmente trabalhar para quem está precisando e para todo mundo, para que se mantenha a cadeia produtiva de cultura. As meninas falaram da questão da invasão. Nós tivemos muito medo de fazer opretação, mas fizemos mesmo assim, porque os ataques racistas eles estão muito comuns, tanto presencialmente como, né? Então as nossas lives poderiam ser invadidas, o nosso fórum poderia ser invadido, mas não foi. Isso não aconteceu em nenhuma das ações que fizemos, e foram ações muito abertas, os vídeos ficaram por muito tempo no ar, as ações aconteceram e tal. Bom, é isso. Temos medo de alguns editais que surgiram, editais que a gente, pela leitura do edital, a gente vê que é uma arapuca, né? Para pegar você e seus dados, né? Existe um movimento neopentecostal muito grande, aliado ao governo do Jair Bolsonaro. É por isso que no Pretação nós trabalhamos com a arte erótica, para que as mulheres pudessem se entender enquanto corpo e não trabalhar a subjetividade, porque precisamos trabalhar o amor. Porque o que está acontecendo agora? Muitas mulheres negras de matriz africana, que têm uma relação com a sua ancestralidade, elas estão deixando a matriz africana e estão indo para o movimento neopentecostal. Elas são a base dessa pirâmide do movimento neopentecostal, com esse sentido de família, esse amor de família, né? E é isso.
Thank you very much. Suzanne typed on the panel. Interesting how the last panel, in the end, we start talking about censorship. I want to end this panel today because we're going to prepare for the next performance. But I would like to say something, and I would like us all as artists, all as women, in our different conditions, in our different capacity, for us to stay with the trouble, just as Donna Haraway say, to stay with the trouble and be in the thick of the present and move through it. What does it mean for us as women artists to move through the thick of the present? I would like to end this panel now and say thank you to everyone, thank you to all of you. But remember, the next performance is in half an hour time, and head count a performance, there will be Spanish translation. Also, please visit our other platform that Christina has created. I'm just going to invite her very quickly to just talk very quickly about observatory, and then we're going to end this. Thank you. Very quickly, 3 minutes, Christina. this. Yeah.
Okay, just quickly to say that if you click on the link, it will give you a tutorial of how to use the space. It's quite easy. It's called Gather Town is the platform. And you choose a small avatar that allows you to move around and to look at different videos. Also to meet other people that are in the same space. And it works like in real space. So when you're close to each other, you can see each other and talk. But if you move away, you stop seeing them and being able to talk with them through camera and your microphones. And there are also like benches and a fire area where you can have private conversations. And the benches is up to 6 people.
Thank you, Christina. We are also practicing social distancing while we are also online. So benches for 6 people. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to my translator, Yana and Constanza. Thank you, everybody. My heart is really, really full right now. I have nothing to say, but remember, we're all doing this out of love, and money is also good because money can feed us and money can buy us coffee. So thank you, everybody. We have received money to cover our costs, and right now we're still asking for donations so that we can pay the artists. And yes, thank you, and we'll see you later for the performance. Ciao, bye-bye.